Here's something worth thinking about.
There were 12 men in that boat. 11 of them stayed in it. And the one who got out is the one we remember for failing. You know the story. It is one of the most quoted failures in the whole Bible. Peter walks on the water. Peter looks at the wind. Peter starts to sink. And Jesus says the line everybody remembers. You of little faith. Why did you doubt? That line gets used as a warning. Don't be like Peter. Don't take your eyes off Jesus. Don't let doubt get in. But almost nobody says the other part out loud. Peter walked on water. Here's where it clicks. Read what actually happens in Matthew chapter 14, and read it slowly, because the order of events is everything. The disciples are in a boat, a long way from shore, and the wind is against them. Jesus comes towards them walking on the sea. They think it is a ghost. They cry out in fear. And Peter says, Lord, if it is you, tell me to come to you on the water. That is not a small sentence. He is not asking for proof. He is asking for permission. And Jesus gives him one word. Come. Then the text says something we skip over almost every single time. Peter got down out of the boat, walked on the water, and came towards Jesus. He walked. Not tried to walk. Not attempted it and immediately went under. He walked on water, on the way to Jesus, and the Bible records it in the same plain tone it records everything else. How far, we are not told. Long enough to be described as walking. Long enough to be out there. Then the wind. He sees it, he is afraid, and he begins to sink. And here is the part one want you to notice. The text says, immediately Jesus reached out his hand and caught him. Immediately. Not eventually. Not after he had gone under and learned his lesson. Not after a pause to let the point land. The hand was there before the water was. And only then does the rebuke come. You of little faith, why did you doubt? That order matters enormously. Jesus does not correct him instead of catching him. He catches him, and then he talks to him. The rescue is not the reward for getting the answer right. The rescue comes first. And look at the actual words of the rebuke, because they are gentler than we remember. Little faith. Not no faith. Little. That is a quantity, which means there was some. And whatever amount he had, it was enough to put his foot over the side of a boat in the middle of a lake at night. Now think about the other 11. Scripture records no rebuke for them. Not one word. But it also records no water. They were safe. They were dry. They were exactly where they had been when the whole thing started. And I want to be careful here, because it would be easy to turn this into a cheap shot at people who stayed in the boat. That is not what the passage is doing, and it is not what I am doing. Staying is not a sin. Nobody is condemned for it. But it is worth being honest about one thing. Safety and faith are not the same measurement. You can be perfectly secure and have risked nothing. And nothing is exactly what gets tested when you risk nothing. The only man who could sink that night was the man who was standing on water. That is the whole thing. His failure was only available to him because of what he had already done. You cannot fail at something you never attempted. That is not a virtue. That is just an absence. And then there is what happens afterwards, which settles it. Peter is not remembered in the rest of the New Testament as the man who sank. He is in the boat when they worship. He is there at the Transfiguration. He is the one who answers when Jesus asks who they say he is. He fails again, badly, worse than this, on the night of the arrest. And he is still the one standing up at Pentecost preaching to a crowd, and the church starts moving through him. So sinking was an event that happened to Peter on a Tuesday night on a lake. It was never his name. That is the pattern underneath this. We treat a failure as a verdict. One thing goes wrong and we quietly file it as evidence about who we are, not what happened, but what we are. And once it becomes an identity, we stop getting out of boats. Because if failing means being a failure, then the safest thing available is to never attempt anything you could fall short of. Scripture does not do that arithmetic. It records the sinking honestly. It records the rebuke honestly. And then it keeps going, and so does he. If this made you look at something you got wrong a little differently, subscribe. New reflections every week. Nobody drowns in a boat. Nobody walks on water in one either.